all of the leaders in that unit were just so welcoming, and we built a very strong team. I learned a ton of stuff from them, where basically every evaluation that I got from that point forward was like, I learned teamwork is one of the most important pieces. And I was able to get very good ratings from all of my leaders in the Army because they always included teamwork somewhere in there. I think that really set up my military career for success, being around these guys who actually care. That set everything apart. For that period of my life, those were the guys. That was the unit that really set the stage. One of the big things I started pushing was you're going to own your problems. And it was because of what I learned with these Charger Company guys. So like if second platoon would mess up, I would look at fourth platoon and say, hey, why did you screw this up? Like, how is this your fault? When you know who you are and how you want to be seen, it's very easy to show up that way because you have this inner guiding principle that knowing how I want to be, the person I want to be seen as, is this the right thing to do or not? And when you have a decision that comes up, it's like, does it promote the way I want to be seen or does it hurt the way I want to be seen? The reason so many people struggle with this is because society makes it very hard. Where when you talk to a kid, the natural thing to ask is, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's never who do you want to be when you grow up. The second I heard that framing, it was like, oh, yeah, who do I want to be? Because like even right now, I'm the same person I was in the Army, but I'm coaching marketing agencies. But I know who I want to be. I'm just using a different vehicle and like a different medium, right, to express that.
Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to the Silicon Spider podcast, the podcast for people who believe that one connection can change everything, even the trajectory of your life. My name is Jakub Grajcar. I'm the creator of Silicon Spider. And why am I doing this? Because I have to. Because these stories of connections that changed our lives happen all the time. I hear them all the time. I'm one of them, and I want to hear them from the people that I know and from the people that have these inspiring stories. My guest for today, for what is very likely going to be the very first episode or very first guest episode of the show, is Chris DuBois, agency executive turned agency coach, founder of Dynamic Agency OS, host of the Agency Forward podcast, Army major, dad, and songwriter. We might dive into that too. Chris, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. First episode, it's exciting.
Yes.
I should put a quick caveat. If you Google Chris DuBois songwriter, there's actually a famous country music songwriter who's done like so many hits. He'll pop up. Like I'm not competing with that dude.
Yeah. I got somewhat acquainted with that as I was looking up your previous podcast preparing for this one, and I'm like, oh damn, he's got some competition in the songwriting space. You need a pseudonym, you know?
I think what's interesting too is that guy I'm pretty sure has a brother named Tim who's also a country music writer, and I also have a brother named Tim who does nothing with music. But It's like, oh, look at that. Maybe we have this nice combo.
Okay, that's
names.
A plagiarism suit, just
Right.
waiting to happen. You suing them, of course. I mean, that can't stand.
Right.
Well, let's launch into it then. Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show. I wanted to set a little bit of context for this conversation first, because we've known each other for a while. I think like 2 years, something of that sort, or maybe a little bit over
Probably
that.
even longer.
Yeah. Yeah, probably longer. I know you from my time at Zen Pilot, the agency that helps marketing agencies implement ClickUp, landing there, working from over here in Poland for this American company. And I wanted to ask you, from the top of your dome, what is the first interaction you remember between us, so that people know kind of where we know each other from?
I think I asked you for a testimonial for the web project our team ran.
Right,
I think that was
because you were helping with the website. Yeah.
Yeah, and I came in at the end of the project to, like, I think I was a CEO at the time. And I was talking to Gray, and he was like, yeah, I'd like this to be a little tighter. And so I just dove in because I understand agency ops. I'm like, I know what we need to deal with. And so let me see if that translates. So I jumped in at the end, which then led to, I think I shot you a message asking for a testimonial after the web project, and I kicked it off.
Right. That makes a ton of sense. And it's so funny because I forgot about that part. My mind skipped already ahead to like the All-In Agency Summit, where I believe I spoke for Zen Pilot. And you're still running that, right? The summit is the new edition coming?
Yeah, I think this will be the 6th round. We're looking to do it in the end of April. And so it's in the early planning stages. But.
Right. So it's the summit for agency operators, people who want to have a more profitable marketing agency. I need the watchers and listeners to know the tension here. We have spoken about agency stuff so many times. This
Yeah.
conversation is supposed to be different, but just to set the stage. What happened after is after Zen Pilot, I remember I was at the All In Agency Summit kind of right at the end of my stint at Zen Pilot. And do you remember on Halloween, what was it? Must have been 2024. You ran this live stream, and I think I was there as a speaker,
Yeah.
right?
Halloween sessions.
Yeah, yeah,
That was
exactly.
fun. I actually just deleted that from my Google Drive because it was taking up way too much space. So,
Oh, no.
but
Oh,
yeah,
it's
that
still
was a
saved
fun thing.
somewhere, on LinkedIn, I
Yeah,
believe. And
I
that,
think Riverside's got it.
and why are we mentioning that? Why am I mentioning that? That to me is significant. First of all, we have a long history of platforming each other, in various ways, on various podcasts, etc. But I reached out to you to have you on this podcast because the relationship extends beyond just my one stint at Zen Pilot, just this one layer. And we talked, on many occasions, not just about business strategy, not just about marketing, but about life in general at some points. And first of all, I wanted to say thank you for all these conversations. That's something that I really appreciated over the years. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show to dig a little bit deeper. And yeah, and also I feel like I can trust you with something that may not work out at all for the future, but who knows how it's going to go. Yeah.
Yeah, let's take the risk. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that I hope gives you watchers and listeners a little bit of context. We've known each other professionally. Now we're having a bit of a different conversation. I'm going to try my best to not talk about agencies, but maybe about agency. That's a teaser for a little bit later in the show. First of all, though,
Here we go.
for the first time on the show, I want to ask you the question that's going to be the central theme of the show, at least as we see it right now. Who knows what's going to happen in the coming months and years and years and years of this show. I am certain. Chris, what is one connection, a person, place, an organization, or just an idea that changed the trajectory of your life? Let's get started.
Yeah, so I've had so many distinct like seasons of life. Like I have my time with the army, I have my time in an agency, I have my family life. Like everything has been very separate, but it's made it hard to just like pick one.
Hmm.
I guess the first one that kind of well, I mean, since I think we can't use family members, right? Is that one of
Yeah,
the caveats here?
I'm still setting the rules, but I guess it would be encouraged to not go because otherwise everybody's going to say, it was my mom, 100%, and it will just be
Yeah.
my mom is
So
awesome
let
show.
it be known, just let it be known, it was my
Yeah.
wife. She's awesome. Now I'm gonna move to where I can within the rules, play this.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
in the Army, the first company that I was assigned to as a platoon leader, I was 22, it was a charger company. We were up in Alaska, um, and that was, like, my real first experience with, like, being in an active duty line infantry unit. But everyone, like, all of the leaders in that unit were just so welcoming, and, like, we built a very strong team. And so I think I learned a ton of stuff from them where basically every evaluation that I got from that point forward was like I learned teamwork is one of the most important pieces. And I was able to get very good ratings from all of my leaders in the Army because like they always included teamwork somewhere in there. And I was doing things like cross talking to other companies where there's this like competitive spirit, right? Which is good. Like you want that because we always want to like push ourselves to get better. Because if we do deploy, like we're all on the same side here. But people seem to forget that we are all on the same side. And so like it gets really competitive to the point of like sabotaging other units and like it didn't make sense to me, but I learned it because of this company. I was able to learn that. And like we still have like a group text thread and we're like talking all the time. One of our previous company commander took over a battalion in Alaska and we all flew in just to hang out for his change of command ceremony, which is not something that you normally have happen where all your platoon leaders just get back together for a couple days. But yeah, I think that really set up my military career for success was like being around these guys who actually care. Yeah, that set everything apart. So I think for that period of my life, those were the guys, like that was the unit that really set the stage.
And that's the show.
I,
That's the answer. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
yeah.
Okay.
See ya.
No, we
Yeah, actually
definitely
one
want to dig
one
in.
I just thought of one piece that probably makes us go deeper too. Like because we were in Alaska, nobody flies home every holiday, right? You might fly home for Christmas, but like otherwise you were staying there. Tickets are super expensive. And so every event was like every like holiday, we would get together as like our new family, I guess. And so like Thanksgiving was always, with my peers. And so you get really close to these people, but like it was, every weekend we're also hanging out with them and stuff. So it was way more than just like a work relationship.
I see.
Um, yeah.
Can I just say I'm so excited for this conversation? I've been meaning to ask you about, your army life, and I'm glad you picked this because I wanted to dig into that as well. I have a few questions, of course, about what you just said. Starting with, well, you knew the question in advance. Everybody's gonna as they come on the show. Why did you pick this one?
Um, when looking back, like that was like all of my positive memories and even some of the negative ones with like not directly attached to them, but like that they were able to help me work through. All those memories were attached to this group and stuff. I think once I like at one point I was the junior platoon leader in this unit, and then everybody. So like I at some point became the senior platoon leader, and everybody else had swapped out positions, and so I had a completely different like team around me, and it was just nowhere near the same. Like it felt very different. And so yeah, I think what I learned there and like doing that was I don't know. I think those all my positive memories come back to those guys, and like even when
Understand.
I moved from Alaska to Georgia and a lot of because of the way like the army careers work, if you're in the infantry, you're going to Fort Benning. Like that's your kind of the home of the infantry. And so when I left, like everybody was already there, like at Fort Benning. And so it's like we had this like family reunion again. And it was like, I don't know, it's just cool. Like our kids would play together, like our wives all got along. And so yeah, just there's so much positivity that stemmed from those relationships.
I understand. What's interesting to me is that this seems to have carried over, even what into what you do today. You mentioned teamwork, like you've already used the word, a few times here, and you strike me as this, what's the expression, non-zero sum game type of guy,
Yeah.
where if we help each
Positive sum
other,
games.
positive sum game, exactly.
Yep.
If we help each other, always focused on partnerships. We might go there, but first I wanted to ask you about that Chris in that moment. How old were you, and what was in your head as you were starting on this journey? Joining the first company, you were arriving in Alaska. What was that like? What kind of person were you back then?
Yeah. So I was 20, 22, 23, somewhere around there. I had been in the army for the army training for like an infantry officer was like a year long, right? So like I'd already been in active duty and just in the training environment for a while. Yeah, I don't know. I was like, I wanted to, part of my personality, and I had hired a personality coach. I guess I call him personality coach. That's not what his actual title is, but he kind of focused on Myers Briggs stuff. And I
Uh-huh.
wanted when I was running an agency, I wanted to sit down with this guy and just be like, how can I set myself up or set my team up to better work with me so we can actually get more done? And and he gave me all these insights, but one of the things was like, look, if you know what your career progression looks like, you will thrive in any job. Like as long as there is like an obvious next step that you can just target, you're going to do well there. And I think that's so in the army, that's like without knowing this at that point, it's like that's what my focus was like, how do I just do well here? What's the next thing? You're always training for your next job. And so I was just head down, like how do I just be the best soldier that I can be and be crushing it here.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
yeah,
But there
that
must
was
have been
kind of
some
my
sort of there must have been some sort of transformation, right? I mean, there must have been something that was in your head then that you don't have now, or something that changed. So I'm
uh,
looking for that contrast between then and now.
I think well, I mean that teamwork piece was probably the core. Like before then, it was like, yeah, I liked working with people. But I was after that, like I will put myself out there to help someone because I know that's I mean, for myself, that feels like the right thing to do.
I'm imagining you, 22, 23 years old, you're kind of arriving there. Can you spare some more detail on who did you meet? How did these first interactions go? Or is there a particular point or particular event that taught you more about, I mean, for example, about teamwork or something else that kind of gave you like a clear lesson?
Yeah. So the when you first show up to like an infantry unit, you're often thrown into the S3 shop, which is just operations, and so you're essentially just doing the plans and like helping out. And especially as a second lieutenant, you're just like you're bottom of the barrel, right? Like you're just like you like
Okay.
no one likes second lieutenants, and so um,
Okay.
I don't like second lieutenants now, right? Like it's just
Okay.
the way it goes. And so I was in a shop or in the S3 shop, and their current S3 at the time was like he was aggressive. He called me on the phone once, like I'd just gotten home from work and he had been in a meeting, but he called me just yelling at me and demanded that I get back in to finish something I didn't do. And I had no idea what he was talking about. And so I showed up back at the office, sat down, And I'm like, "Hey, sir, I don't know what, like, paperwork you're talking about." And he was like, "Well, that's unacceptable, like, you shouldn't have left without knowing, blah, blah, blah." He walked into his office, and all the paperwork he had meant to give me was sitting on his desk. And so he walked back out and was like, "Okay, here it is, but, like, you need to stay here and finish this now." And it was just like, "Okay, this is like." So this was, like, what I thought the Army was gonna be like. And then as soon as the battalion commander said, "Alright, I need you to go take over 3rd Platoon, Charlie Company." I walked over just like meet some of the guys, and the first guy I met was Andy Stokes, and actually it was his birthday like 2 days ago. I got to call him and like just
Happy
catch
birthday
up
to
and
him.
stuff. What are the odds? But he was our second platoon leader, and when I walked in, it was just he was like, "Oh, cool, you're coming in, like let me show you around, like let's talk about it." And there was no like animosity, like oh the new guy's coming in, like what right we gotta haze him a little or do any. It was just like, hey, welcome to the team. Like, let's chat. Let me introduce you to people. I met the commander, like all these different people and stuff. And it was just like, well, like, this is how it can be. Right. Whereas like some of the other companies, because I didn't stay in Charlie, I also went to Alpha Company, which shared a building with Bravo Company. And so like I was seeing how everybody else interacted. And like this was very different. But on the teamwork side, it was like if I learned something, or say like shovel, we're in Alaska, right? So it snows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not really in the winter. It's too cold to snow in the winter, but in the spring, the fall, like you'll get some snowfall. And one platoon is always tasked with shoveling the walkways to the unit. And so like every week, it's a new platoon that just they go out, they shovel, they make sure it's clear for everybody else to go in. The With this unit, like yeah, it was someone's responsibility to do it, but if someone else saw that it needed to be shoveled, they would just grab a shovel and do it. Like it wasn't like, oh, well, that's second platoon's turn, so I'm not going to touch it. It was like they're like, no, we're a team. I'm just going to do it. I'm here. I can do this. It was like the
That's
mentality I think that shifted things.
okay. That's such a small thing, but it tells me a lot. It reminds me of our previous conversation. We were talking just what was it, last week, I think, uh, about this concept of everything is my problem, right? Or everything
Mhm.
kind of is my
Yeah.
responsibility. Do you think there's a connection there between because you said that last week unprompted, right? And it seems like this is one of the first, instances where you kind of saw that in action.
Yeah. No, it definitely was. And when I later took company command down at Fort Benning, I was at an infantry OSIT. So it's like basic training for the infantry. And so you have a small company, but like you have drill sergeants who are working for you. Right. And so like some of the most aggressive dudes you're gonna find and like but
Yeah.
when I took over, I was told by the battalion commander and the sergeant major, they pulled me aside and they said, "You are taking the weakest company in the battalion. We need you to turn it around." And so I
Just
took over
straight
and
up,
like
you
yeah, like
very clearly setting it up. Okay.
right. So when I went in, I watched them. Like you always have like this it's the change of command inventories, right? So before you take over, you got to go through all the equipment because you're the one who has to sign for it. So they have to lay it all out so you can like count every single item. It's super monotonous and boring. But I'm the guy who's going to be responsible for all of that equipment now and stuff, right? So we're talking like when I was a platoon leader, my hand receipt was $13.8 million and stuff. So like when I traded out with the next guy, I made sure every item was there. Otherwise, like I would get charged for any of that equipment.
Is
But
that really
anyway,
how
so
it
like
works? You would get
yeah,
charged for
a
that?
statement of charges. It's like it's your responsibility to maintain this equipment. And actually, this is a fun story. I had a soldier who he had hurt his back on his previous deployment, and he was getting kicked out of the army for like medical reasons. So like no fault of his, but because of his back. But he couldn't work out, and he just kind of let himself go. So he gained a lot of weight. But when I was doing those inventories, we were missing some items, and so like we had a list of all the items, and I just looked at him, gave him the list. I said, "I think you can make this happen." He's like, "Already on it, sir." And that night, he like came in with just all the equipment we were missing. Like he found it in different. He might have borrowed it or acquired it in different ways.
Okay.
But it all had our platoon's like nomenclature, everything on it. So
Okay.
there's a joke that no one in the army is a thief. They're all just trying to get their stuff back. And so, but anyways,
Okay.
um, so when
Wait,
I
wait,
took
wait.
this
Why
company,
did you why
yeah,
why did you
go ahead.
pick that particular guy for that task?
He was like our vehicle uh,
Mhm.
mastermind. So we had strikers, so like big multi-ton vehicles and stuff. He just knew those vehicles better than anyone else. So like he intuitively knew all of the items that were missing just by looking at like what should be included.
Okay,
And
great.
so But yeah, and high agency person too. Like he'd write one of those guys. He'd just say, "Hey, let's get it done," and they don't have to ask questions. They're going to go get it done. Um, but
Love
so
that.
yeah, when I took over that company, so like I did the inventories, but while doing the inventories, I was watching how they were all interacting and everything, and I noticed each platoon was very, I don't know, like on their own, like they were isolated in a way from what they were doing. And when I talked to some of them, the commander at who I was replacing was like, he was not a good person, period. Like, just flat out. He would get annoyed with someone because they'd make a joke. And so he would call them in for like a 4 a.m. ruck march. I'm like, hey, we're going to do 12-mile ruck march. And then he wouldn't go with them and stuff. So it's like, he was just, nobody liked this guy. He was not setting anyone up for success. And I remember the first day that I took command, there was a PT test for just the cadre. So like, it's only the drill sergeants who are going to be taking this, and I showed up to take it with them, and they were like, "Sir, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Our company's taking a PT test, right?" And like, they're like, "Yeah, but like, you don't have to do this with us." I'm like, "Yes, I do. The company is taking a PT test." And so I kind of right there told them like, "Look, I am not the previous commander. Like, we're going to do things very different now, but like, we're a team." And one of the big things I started pushing was like, "You're going to own your problems." And it was because of what I learned with these charger company guys. Um, like, and it basically, like, if like I kind of made it a joke at the start because I needed a way to get this in with them. And so like, if second platoon would mess up, I would look at fourth platoon and say, "Hey, why did you screw this up? Like, what? How is this your fault?" And they would figure it like they would, well, I guess I could have done this. And it's like, okay, but within like a month, they were showing up, or they would realize like, oh, first platoon is the duty platoon. They got to set up this rifle range, but they're not going to have enough time between this. So I'm just going to show up and help them. And so like I would get to work some days and all of the drill sergeants would already be there helping them set up because they just realize, hey, it's hard. Like we can't just let them do it on their own. We got to help. And the company's like morale shifted very fast to the point where we had other drill sergeants coming over to be like, "Hey, how do I join your company?" And it's like it's not really how it works. You don't get to we don't get to make those trades like that. But like it felt good knowing that like, okay, even people outside the organization can see what we're doing. And when I swapped out of command, my evaluation had us as the number two company in the brigade. So we went from the weakest in the battalion, so that's like 6 of 6, to being number two of like 36. Um, and so we moved up very fast. But it wasn't a like we didn't change the people out. Like they were all the same drill sergeants when I got there. It was I just gave them the bandwidth to be able to run their stuff and make sure that they had that teamwork mentality of owning their problems, but knowing that they should be helping each other. And so that I mean that helped me be very successful. And I guess that was one of those lessons that I really pulled from yeah, Charger Company.
Wow. That first of all, I love the story. I think it's very vivid. I can see it. And well, first of all, I need to fill in one piece. You were in charge of. You're really testing like my military nomenclature here, and some others might also be confused. I hope because I'm about to ask something very basic. You were in charge of. My notes say a company. How many
Yep.
people is that?
Okay, so companies will change sizes depending on what type of unit. So like
Okay.
the Charger company that I was in was like 130,
Uh,
135.
that's the one in Alaska, Charger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the initial one. My company with drill sergeants was like 17, 20. Right? Like it's
Okay.
way smaller because it's a different mission. And so you don't need as
Uh,
big of a unit.
Okay. But even within that, you had distinct platoons. So then a platoon uh
So,
would be
so
how many
in
people?
so normal like infantry platoon, talking like 30 to 40. Usually I mean the goal's like about 40, but usually you're like fitted with about 30. So you
Okay.
got
Okay.
people are double hatting. With
Uh-huh.
drill sergeants, you get like three per
Okay.
platoon. And the
Okay.
with drill sergeants though, so like the idea of those platoons, it's like I might only have 3 drill sergeants I'm responsible for, but they're gonna get 50 soldiers every cycle for training that they're responsible for. And so when I say fourth platoon, it's like the 3 drill sergeants plus 50 privates who are like brand new to the army. And so
Mhm,
the
mhm.
numbers will shift based on the cycle, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you still had a lot of influence. Yeah, I understand that. Take me back to the moment when you first started introducing these changes, because this story is so interesting. I want to stay there for a while. Um, what was the initial reaction? Did you have any conversations where there was resistance, or was there like doubt that
Mm,
okay, he's a new guy coming in with new energy, it's not gonna last? Tell me about those moments.
yeah. So I had two of my drill sergeants were these big, like, Mexican descendant drill sergeants, very aggressive, like, all
Okay.
tatted up. And one
Right.
of them was like, he was, man, his last name was Guerrero, right? So like, I don't speak Spanish, but like guerra is war and stuff, right? I
Right.
think
Yeah. Yeah.
now I have to double check it, but like this dude, he got it. Like this was a guy who he came back. I sent him to airborne school while I was there, and on his first or second jump, he ended up like twisting his ankle really bad, and it swelled up. But he didn't want to get kicked out of school, so he did his next three jumps with a like very injured ankle and just walked it
Tough.
off and then
Yeah.
healed it later. Like, yeah, just mindset was very aggressive. He was very
Yeah.
aggressive with the soldiers. But in this first meeting that I did with them, he said he didn't think that I could change the morale the way that I was aiming to. But he would do everything that I said in hopes that it would work. The other guy straight up said in that session, "This is not going to work. Like no one in this company is going to want to work together." And so that's like what's the point of trying? And I ended up kicking that other guy out of the unit. And so, like, I went to the battalion commander and sergeant major and said, "Hey, if you want me to make this not the weakest company, I got to get rid of this guy. Like, he's hurting everybody's morale. We got to find somewhere else for him." And they moved him to a different unit where I don't know if he didn't do great anywhere because with that mentality, what are you going to do?
I see.
But that was one of those shifts, like kicking him out definitely helped.
Okay. And at this point, you're still, I guess you're not 22, 23 anymore. That's a
It's
few,
probably like
yeah,
26 ish, 27.
26-ish. And already almost like building a culture. Not almost, you were definitely building a culture
We
there. And
definitely were. Mhm.
that's funny. It's one of those things that comes up often in conversations because, outside of this show, Watchers and Listeners, I run, business podcasts, right? And I ran three of those already in various capacities. And it often comes, this insight often comes that when it comes to culture, okay, you can do a lot by modeling behavior. You can do a lot by, setting rules, bringing clarity, right? Our friend Gray McKenzie loves the concept of clarity and clarity being kindness. But this also comes up, you need to have the goal, the cojones, so to speak, to also just remove the elements that are
Yeah.
poisoning the culture. Like,
I view culture as the standard that you keep, right? And so it's Seth Godin has a great framing for it. It's like people like us do things like this. Like that's culture in its simplest form. And so, but when you bring someone onto the team, you get to look like, does this person like meet our standard? Do they lower it or raise it? And we only want to meet or raise. And even meeting the standard, it's like, cool. We got to like, we want to bring people on who are going to elevate us in some way. But as soon as someone lowers that standard, if you accept that as a leader, you're sending a message to everyone on the team that, hey, the bar is lower. Like you don't need to do as much. And so as soon as you like give that ground, you're losing. I kind of like anchored myself to that mentality of like if I let this happen, everyone else is going to think it's okay and this is how we operate. And I just wasn't willing to let that happen.
this might be a question that, you're gonna answer, I just did it, but I'm gonna buy it anyway. How did you find the kind of the strength, the grit to, to stand firm against that wave? Because it's always a slippery slope, right? Lowering standards. And you have to kind of put your foot down,
Yep.
plant yourself on the ground, or whichever expression I'm gonna use next, and say, no, people like us don't do things like this. How do you find that strength?
That's a good question. I don't know that I've ever had an issue with it. It's like when something feels like the right thing to do, uh, it's pretty easy to just do the right thing because I can fall back on this is what I
It's
know
not.
is right, and so I'm
I mean,
I'm
it's,
doing this.
yeah.
With the team, it was also like I felt if I let that happen, I was letting everyone down because I was the guy who got to make that decision, like whether to keep him.
Yeah, so you cared more about the rest, them
Yeah.
succeeding than this one guy getting removed, for example. You know what a kick-ass quote that is? If it feels like the right thing, it's easy to do. So, like, I'm so glad that came up because I don't think that's typical, honestly. I think a lot of people know the right thing to do, but then there's the easy thing to do, and then they do the easy thing. So, has
So
that?
not
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I coach agencies on positioning, right? So I don't want to get into the agency side, but with positioning, and I didn't necessarily know, I didn't have the words for this before, but it's like when you know who you are and how you want to be seen, it's very easy to show up that way because you have like this inner uh like guiding principle that you can say like, okay, well, knowing how I want to be, like the person I want to be seen as, like, is this the right thing to do or not? And when you have a decision that comes up, it's like, well, does it promote the way I want to be seen or does it hurt the way I want to be seen? And so I think I had that like ingrained just earlier. I didn't like I've only acquired these words to be able to like talk about it since leaving the army. But that was it. It was just like I knew I wanted to be a good leader. I wanted to like show that I cared about my soldiers. I wanted to be seen as someone who prioritizes teamwork and all these things. And so it was really easy to be like, hey, is this person hurting the team or helping them? Like which one would make sense for what you want to promote?
I see. So when you know who you are, it's easy to show up that way. It looks like, and this is something so many people, and I hope some of them are going to find this podcast, are struggling with that, not knowing who they are.
Uh-huh.
And so it's not easy for them to show up a certain way or to show up as their best or most authentic selves. It sounds like for yourself, you hit that point that you know who you are. Is that what happened back then in Alaska, or was there an earlier point? Can you try to look for that?
So I think I was like forever trying to figure this out. So first, I think the reason so many people struggle with this is because society makes it very hard. Where when you talk to a kid, everybody like the natural thing to ask is, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" It's never who do you want to be when you grow up. And the second that someone asked me that question, and I don't know who it is, they could probably be on this connection list. But the second I heard that framing, it was like, oh yeah, who do I want to be? Because like even right now, I'm the same person I was in the army, but I'm coaching marketing agencies. But I know who I want to be. I'm just using a different vehicle and like a different medium, right, to express that. But
So
when
for
I go
you,
back,
let me just
yeah,
make
go
this
ahead.
clear. For you, what do you want to be means like a job, a profession. And who do you want to be is what kind of person?
Yeah. How do you wanna show up? How do you want people to see you? And so when you do and, like so I refuse to ask my kids, "What do you wanna be when you grow up?" And they've started, like when I ask them and, like, "Who do you wanna be when you grow up?" And they'll say, like, "I think I wanna be a vet." So and, like, I know and they're like, they'll stop me, like, "I know, dad, like, who do I wanna be? I wanna be helpful, and so that's why I think a vet could be a good one for me."
That's
And it's like
amazing. That's awesome.
right, and so it's just like it shifted the thinking on like, oh, you don't actually have to lock into a specific career. If you know who you wanna be and how you wanna show up, you can find tons of things that can actually help you make that happen, and you can feel good in those roles.
Okay.
I don't know where I really, like, adopted that. I mean, my father was a police officer, my mother was a school teacher. Both of them, like, before my father retired, he was the chief of police. My mother is currently the superintendent. So, like, they both kinda climbed the ranks of their profession, got to essentially as high as you can for those jobs. And so I don't know if that's,
Both of
like
these, yeah,
yeah.
both of these professions seem kind of based on principles, right? You becoming a
Yeah.
police officer or a school teacher, that means you want to have an impact on like your community or the
Mhm.
society, because there's so many more lucrative jobs to do, and at least that's the connection I'm seeing, and it's kind of surface level, right? But like, it would make sense that the son of a police officer and a school teacher would, for example, go to the army. Yeah, okay,
Yeah, helped that we had a family history too. My father was in for, I don't know, 4 years. My grandfather was in for 2. Though if you create when you talk to my grandfather, you would not feel like it was 2 years. It was like it was such a large part of his life.
I see.
Um, but and actually it was only when I joined the army that I started to really like connect with him, which felt I mean cool. That, like we had something to actually bond over. He was not a very open guy till that. And so
Okay. So do you think this is a story of, I'm gonna fish a little here, because we went places, definitely, and now we're talking even identity and how you want to show up. And it's interesting that you say it like this, that this is a story of you learned how you want to show up, first of all, by reframing the question, right? Who do you want to be? And then, what you mentioned as the connection is this, this deployment in, wait, was it a deployment? This company in Alaska? I'm trying to use the right
yeah,
words. I'm
it's
trying to not mix
just
up.
a
Yeah.
duty station.
Yeah, duty station in Alaska, where it almost feels like, correct me if I'm wrong, you saw these people and that was like a confirmation for you of, yeah, this is who I want to be. Maybe not the profession, maybe not, for forever, but this is how I want to show up. Does that connect? Is that close to the
Yeah,
truth?
it's kinda have you ever read, Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse?
No.
So, great book, I'd recommend you can read it in, like, a single sitting. right? It does not. I've read it like 6 times, but
Okay.
it's basically kind of like a retelling, kind of like the Buddha, like where he becomes a gambler so that he can see what that's like, and then realizes like that's not the path for him, and then he fasts, and like there's just so many parts of his life that are like he's kind of playing with opposite ends of virtues and stuff to realize who he is and who he wants to be. And it's probably like the perfect, analogy, metaphor, one of those for this
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
situation where it's like you need to go through life like, once you have a general idea of who you wanna be, then it's like you just find the experiences to test it. Like, you're pressure testing, "Who do I wanna be?" And you start learning things, and, like, at no point did I think teamwork was how I wanted to be. Like, when I was in ROTC with the Army, it very much felt like I needed to be the guy trying to do everything, like, taking it all on, doing whatever I could to, like, make us successful. Even in my reserve unit, like, I went to basic training in, like, 2008 and then went into the reserves while I was in college. And while and that unit was like, I mean, they were not a team. Like, it was just it was so obvious. I got promoted very quickly within that. Like, I was the PMCS private, so PMCS preventative maintenance and checks and stuff. Basically, like, you're the one who goes to the vehicles and you're like looking through it, like, does it have oil, right? Are the lights working? All of those things. And you
Yeah.
have to do it every time you take out a vehicle. And instead of the people driving the vehicles going out and doing these checks, they would just make me go out and do it. And I got very fast at knowing what to check and being able to go down the list. And then I became as I kept getting promoted, I became the PMCS specialist. And it was like, yay, like now I've gotten promoted twice, 3 times at this point, and I'm still doing the same job because these guys are just lazy and don't want to help. Where we had one mechanic in this unit of like vehicles, right? That mechanic was always in the garage working because there was no one else assigned to help him. And so when I finished my stuff, I would go into the garage and just be like, seems like something interesting because I didn't want to just sit around like everybody else. So I was just like, oh, let me just take this on and figure it out. And so I guess that was like, I guess teamwork in a sense, right? Where I went to go help that NCO and he was surprised that I was there trying to learn this stuff. But it was like, that really bothered me. And so I think there was also a great, like when I saw actual teamwork, I had something to like contrast it to. So it probably was more impactful at that point.
I see that. Yeah, and I guess that's the other side of this coin, right? You can also find out who you aren't by looking at people who irk you. You know, there's this
Right.
sort of anger or frustration with them,
Yeah.
and that tells
I
you
will
about
not be
something
like
about
that guy.
yourself. Yeah, I don't want to be
Yeah.
like that guy.
Yeah.
This also reminds me of the concept of like part of the reason behind the show, I guess, as well is this is this conversation was reminding me of the concept of finding your people. It really sounds like back there in Alaska, you found your people, and like my time at Zen Pilot had its ups and downs, but I definitely do feel like I found my people in a lot of ways. I'm reminded of Kurt Schmidt. I don't know if you had a chance
Mhm.
to meet
Yeah.
him.
I know
So
Kurt.
he's a
He's in my
guy.
community.
Ah,
Yeah.
great, great. Well, greetings to you, Kurt. You're on the list, by the way, so I'll be reaching out to you.
I'll let him know when I think I'm talking to him tomorrow. I'll let him know.
Excellent. Yes, and please send my regards. So Kurt, when we initially spoke, he said, "Well, I'm a guy who's all about networking. I make introductions. I put people together, and I see what transpires, and that's kind of the thing that I'm most passionate about." And for me, that was like a total light bulb fucking moment,
Mhm.
in the sense of yes, that tracks. Something really resonated, and people use the word resonate a lot, but like this was the same frequency as I am on, in the sense of, and that's why I'm mentioning this show, right? I want to connect with people. I want you to think, who's got a good connection story to also tell here, because that's why the whole brand is called Silk and Spider. It's a web. It's a web of connections, and that for whatever esoteric reason that I cannot explain, and I guess you have to kind of go with your gut feeling for this. For whatever esoteric reason that I cannot explain, this is something that I care about, and this is this connection piece is really great. So there's a bunch of other things that I wanted to ask you about, but for this one episode, I think I want to stick to one topic, to this one story. And one last thing that I want you to take me to these holiday celebrations in Alaska. I don't know why, but I want to learn more about that. You mentioned that specifically. You mentioned that like it's something important to mention, that you spent holidays together. Why? What was that like?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, I grew up in Northern Maine with a very French Canadian family. Um, every like holidays were all like everybody's crowded around the table, right? It's the place is packed. We're always in our grandparents' houses that were too small to actually fit all those people. Um, and so, like, I don't know, just being together for holidays was cool. The first Christmas that my wife and I spent together, like, alone was in Alaska, and we had just gotten there, like, the month before, so we didn't really know anyone at this point. We just moved into our house, but, like, even our furniture wasn't there, so we had some, parachute cord, it's green, and we, like, made the outline of a tree on the wall and just, like, put it there with, like, some gifts for each other, and, like, I think the Thanksgiving prior, we had, like, TV dinners and beer, like, while watching something from the hotel, and so the following Thanksgiving, now we're in this unit, and everyone came over, and it was like everyone brought food. It was just like there was laughing, right? It felt like a family get together. To even, like, my that first, Thanksgiving from the hotel, we were watching Gordon Ramsay, making a turkey and stuff, so I, like, jokingly told my wife, "I'm gonna make that turkey next year." And I did it. It was like you have to lift the skin, you're shoving butter with garlic, right? Like, it took a
Yeah.
long time to make. But so we sit down to eat, and, Andy Stokes, the first guy who I met in that unit, was like, "This is the best turkey I've ever eaten." And his wife got so upset, like, to the point of, like, they weren't talking now at our house, and it was like, "This is like a family event. This is exactly how it would work," right? But yeah, it was just like I don't know, we knew we could always, like, count on each other to, like, just show up, and it was like, I mean, we had people would, like, lose loved ones, and, like, we were there that night with a six-pack, just like, "Hey, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna hang out." We had people in
Amazing.
the unit who we lost, and it was like we were getting together, like, making sure everybody was okay, checking in, and so even now, it's like we're not in the unit, obviously. Most of us are out of the Army, some are still there, but we're, like, continuously texting, checking in, just sharing funny things or, like, memories, and, yeah, I don't know that you can get that with just, I've been in other units, right? I've this was not my only unit in the Army, and nowhere else do I have a group like that that I can just go back to and know that if I needed something right now, they would drop whatever they're doing and try to help me.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I am so glad you took me on that journey and the Watchers and the Seers too. Oh gosh, can't forget the audience, which is, at the point of recording non-existent, but who knows what the future might bring. I'm really glad you chose this connection. I'm really glad we had a conversation that barely had any agency stuff
Yeah, look
in
at
it.
that.
And I see that as a success. I really do. And my last question to you would be, because that's kind of also part of the premise of the show. Uh, we spoke about your connection. Who would you like to connect with? And of course, bonus points, because this will go out in the World Wide Web, as they say, right? Who would you like to connect with? Bonus points if it's not in the agency space and it's not like potential clients for your business.
That's, putting me on the spot. I think alright, well, I was listening to their podcast earlier, so Sean Puri would be from My First Million, would be, I'll put him. I would like to meet him because I feel like he also knows a lot of very interesting people, but he himself is interesting as well, and so I feel like I would gain a lot just by being able to talk to him and some of his connections.
Okay, cool. Well, that's one specific person. Cool. Any type of person
Yeah.
you would like to
Oh,
talk more with?
just, yeah, I mean, anybody who, just meeting interesting people. Like, I have a hobby of picking up hobbies and stuff because 'cause I'm just
Okay.
curious. So, like, I learned to make kombucha, like, I've done archery, woodworking, and, like, I'll do it for a while, and then I just get bored of it, and I move on to something else, and I've realized it's because I really like learning, like, just figuring out, "How do I make this work?" And then I move on to whatever's next. Like, as soon as I can be dangerous in a conversation about it, like, I'm done with it. And so I love meeting people who have, like, interesting hobbies, stuff like that, where I can just, like, talk to them and just figure, like, "Oh, like, I didn't realize that works that way, like, tell me more." And, yeah, I think those are super interesting, just fun connections to have. Like, there's no expectation of each other, it's just like, we're meeting and, like, chatting, and, like, this is learning from each other.
That. I love that. And of course, if somebody is in the agency space, just to leave that out there, who knows who will be
Yeah.
listening to this? Uh, Dynamic Agency OS, it's a community now, right?
So I have
Go
a
ahead to
community and I
yeah,
do coaching. So,
yeah,
we got both.
yeah. I'll leave all the relevant links in the show notes to that as well. Chris is a great connection on LinkedIn, watchers and listeners and friends. So definitely connect there. And we'll call this a wrap for episode number one. Well, what's likely to be episode number one? We'll see. I might have to edit this later. Oh gosh, oh gosh. Anyway, Chris, thank you so much for coming on
Yeah,
the show.
yeah.
Thank you for satisfying my curiosity and taking me places and teaching me and the watchers and listeners about teamwork. I feel like there's so much more to explore here. Maybe it'll inspire a blog post or something, I would be super glad to read that. In the meantime, any parting words for people watching?
Figure out who you want to be when you grow up.
Yeah, who, not what. I love that. I love that note to land on. Well, okay. That's everything, watchers and listeners, for today. Thank you so much. So much for joining us today. This show, at the time of recording, is just getting off the ground. So every interaction counts, every subscription, every comment, every reaction, every message that you sent over to me, and I should put some way of contacting me in the show notes. It will be worth so much, so I hope you'll do some of that. And for now, that's everything. I'll see you in the next one. This has been the Silken Spider Podcast, and see you next time. Bye bye.